at night. It's not so much as are we good or are we bad? It's more like, how can we improve? How do we get better? How do we reach more? How do we reach more eyeballs? How do I make it so it's more effective for my customers? Because I really want the customer to be the story, not LifeFlip Media and none of those folks. Because people are always like, oh my gosh, you don't get mentioned. And I'm like, I don't care. If my client goes on and is interviewed by somebody and brings me up, that's not doing my job. I don't want us to be the spotlight. They should be the spotlight and not have to worry about, worrying about us. And it's the aspect that we think about. So the things that keep me up at night is making sure that our team has everything they need and to be able to do their job. And I don't like to be a micromanager. So that's one of the things. I think that my wife will tell you the things that keep me up at night are silly little things, but to me, they're like perfections I need to go fix in the company, whether it be something on our website. I've literally, this week, she'll tell you, I've spent probably way too many hours trying to fix something on our website, but nobody knows because it's really not a big deal, but it drives me nuts. So it's one of those things. I think as a CEO, it's smaller things drive you nuts. I mean, obviously, closing deals and all that, that's very important, but it's the little things that you always want to be improving. I don't think you ever really messed up.
Yeah, I can totally relate with you. One of my 5 screens here around my office desk here does in fact have my website on it. That I've been doing the same thing. It's just like this one little thing has been bugging me and trying to tweak and tune and get that just the way I need it. So yeah, I can relate with that because I'm ever the perfectionist. Anybody that knows me will tell you that one. So as far as entrepreneurs that are just starting out, you've been around long enough that you've been able to see some, rise and fall. And so what do you think is one of the, or maybe even more than one of the main reasons why new businesses with entrepreneurs are failing, or either that or that they just give up?
I love this question. One of the, I had an advantage. I started working in the Silicon Valley, and a number that's always stuck in my head, and strangely hasn't changed in like almost 10 years, is here's a stat for anyone listening. 90% of all startups fail. 90%. We're talking about startups that get funding failing. And so I've always kept that in my mind as I've started a business. And this is not the first business that I've ever started. And I've failed at 100% of the businesses that I've tried to start before. Like this happens to be one of version like 10, I believe. I'd have to ask my wife. She's the one keeping track. I've tried every bit. I think the biggest thing new entrepreneurs, folks dipping their toe in, is they believe in that get rich quick, right? That's the ever-present fix is I'm going to come in and I'm going to be ultra successful and I'm going to be the next Richard Branson, right? I'm going to be able to be that successful. And really you have to humble yourself. You're not going to do that. It's going to be hard. And I think that's why so many fail is they get frustrated early in the game that the rise to the top isn't as fast. And it's hard because you look on social media and you see other people and other brands that you're competing with or are in your space and they're just killing it. And you're thinking, I got to do something now to fix it. And like I always tell people, and I say this all the time, is, that version of a product or a competitor that you think which is the one that you're seeing today on social or on their website, that's just an expression of where they were about 2 years ago. So I think that's very true. If I look back at where LifeFlip was 2 years ago, we were nowhere near where we're at today. Our website was horrible. We had zero messaging. Our logo was ugly because I created it. We weren't really playing with production too much. I had decided to walk away from what I love to do, which is editing, graphics, and all that fun stuff. And, I think that's where people get frustrated. I decided to stick it out. It's fun to me is the challenge, but I think you have to do that. And I think also to kind of expand on that is you have to remember, and this is part of the getting frustrated and walking away, is a lot of new entrepreneurs are what Mark Cuban has coined wannapreneurs, right? They still have a full-time job, so they're earning that check, so they're safe. And they're like, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur, which drives everybody else nuts because you're like, you're not an entrepreneur. You're not paying for medical, and you don't have to worry about all these things. Your medical's covered. You get a paycheck even if you don't close the deal this week. It's different. You can go a whole month as an entrepreneur and you could starve to death. lose your house, lose everything. You got a job and your side hustle is keep, side hustle's kind of cool. You got it there. I think some people just, they lose interest in it because they don't see, I mean, again, it comes back to quick wins. So I think, the side hustle people, they're not really all the way in. So I don't really even consider them entrepreneurs. I love Mark Cuban calling them entrepreneurs. So that's what I call a lot of them. I'm like, if you have a full-time job, please don't call yourself an entrepreneur because you're not. You don't have to go through any of the struggles. You have it pretty good in life. Please don't tell me that's what you are. So I think that's where a lot of people, I think everybody wants to be successful right away. And I think they look at a lot of brands and want to be just like them.
Yeah, I was reading some studies here recently, as far as, excuse me, businesses that fail. And I was actually surprised to see that the number one reason that one of these studies that caught my eye had mentioned is that people will start a business and there was no market demand for their service or product, and and so it's kind of blew my mind that so many people are just jumping in and they haven't even done the market research to find out if in their geographic area is going to be able to handle it. Number two was number two was running out of capital.
Sorry. The startup guy in me is like, totally know that one. I've watched people get funded. I've brands get $10 million in funding, and next thing I know, they're having an all company paid expense trip to Fiji, and you can bring your spouse, and they're having a company retreat in Fiji. I'm like, and of course everybody's flying like first class, staying in a fine hotel. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, and you wonder why you ran out of money in less than a year. I mean, to burn through $10 million is pretty incredible when you have a pretty big runway, and then you run out of it when you're blowing, $500,000 on traveling to Fiji. So, I've been blessed that I never worked with a startup that did that. But I do agree, you can run out of money pretty quick.
Yeah, the irony is the scenario that you were mentioning, taking the trips to Fiji. Number 3 on that list was do not have the right people in the business, running the business.
Oh, absolutely.
If people that have charge of the bank account are taking trips to Fiji, well, maybe they shouldn't be the ones in charge of the bank account.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I totally agree with that. I remember coming up a couple startups, and the right hire makes the difference between success and not success. And sometimes our CEO would bring in, this big, awesome, just well-established sales leader or a big CMO. And it's not that they were bad people, because they're not. They have amazing careers and amazing chops. But at the end of the day, they weren't right for this business because they were used to, it's funny, when you come from like corporate America to a startup, it's different, right? Two different playing fields. One is everybody jumps in and everybody's paddling in the same boat. In corporate America, it's not that way. You're paddling in your own boat, and usually your boss is getting your recognition, much like the military. But in startup world, it's a little bit different, right? So it's one of those things that I've seen. You have to put the right hires in. That's definitely number 3. Those top 3 are awesome. I would agree with each one of them, and I could think of several companies that have been guilty. Usually they're pretty guilty of all 3 at once. Usually if I watch us fail, there's only been one exception to that. I've watched one company, they're now publicly traded. I don't want to name drop, but they had like 7 CEOs in their time, and their last one is the one that stuck, and he was actually the first one. We'll figure that one out. The first one came back and took them to IPO world, and they're a unicorn, so they're making good money, but it's hard.
Yeah, very true. Very true. So as far as what you've seen in your experience, Eric, what would you say some of the roadblocks are that, if you were to warn somebody starting out, keep your eyes out for these roadblocks?
Don't get in your own way. I think that's a big one. You can mentally get in your own way besides physically getting in your own way. Don't let your mind take over, because you're going to want to, I like the question, but I mean, don't get in your own way is one of the biggest pieces of advice, and that can just take you over, just getting in your own way. And also, don't ignore that quiet voice that sits inside you. We all have that voice. We have that voice. It's the one that got us here. And that's the voice that we're all going to need to listen to, because that's the voice that's going to take us to the next level. You have to listen to it. Something is something called from you inside to make you go do this. It wasn't like you were just sitting there one day and you're like, crap, I want to go start a business and I'm just going to figure it out and Google it, right? Not going to go GTS that. So you got to follow that voice that's, instead of yourself. And, just remember you have to get good at letting go. I think that's a big takeaway. And it's a different kind of freedom. At the end of the day, I always tell people that it's a completely different angle at freedom. You have to be good at letting go. Some things you're just not going to be able to control. You're going to want to, but again, it goes back to point one. Don't get in your own way. You're going to have to let go of things, right? It's just,
sure.
It's I can go into hiring people too. I mean, Jesus, I can talk about that. That one, if you wanted that point to kind of go on there, is I don't lie to myself and I don't hold on to illusions. That's one of my big, it's like, hire fast, fire fast, hire slow is one of those mottos that you have to do. If you're an up and coming entrepreneur and you're starting a business and you're thinking about hiring people, one, don't think again about hiring people. It's cool. We all have this mission in our hearts that we want to just go hire our friends and family and brothers in arms and all that. And sometimes it's not your best bet. Sometimes you're just like, no, I can do it myself. Don't already be like, I just want to sit back, play video games all day and make other people do it. That's not how it works.
Yep. Spot on there, man. Several good golden nuggets. I'm over here taking notes, so I hope the listeners are too. So kind of the flip side of the roadblock question is what resources have you found that are just really spot on resources that you recommend people take advantage of?
I think you should read. Audible is one of my favorites. As much as I like to put a good book in my hand, as you can tell, right on my desk underneath my Xbox controller, because I use it for the TV. Not work. Who does that? But it's my TV. It's how I get the NFL Network. Because I watch NFL Good Morning. But books are powerful, right? Those brands, always be learning what you're doing for your business, right? Your vertical. You should be reading monthly. I know some people read weekly. You should. 2 years ago, I read a book a week for a year. That's a lot of books, 52. But definitely be using knowledge. Use the power of Veterati. Is a great resource. Yes. I'll name drop Veterati. Get a mentor. Definitely get a mentor. I have mentors. I'm a mentee and a mentor. But always have those folks that you should be listening. Always know the job in front of you and behind you.
Sure.
And pay attention to certain things online. For me, personally, I'm a big fan of SaaStr.com. That's SASSTR.com. It's a very startup-y. So when you look at it, if you have a Main Street USA or e-commerce business, you'll probably look at it and go, what the heck? But it's run by a great guy who's a mentor of mine. It's a fabulous blog. It talks about all the frustrations of hiring and building a business from like day one with capital, hiring the right people, when you should hire salespeople. It's very relative just because it looks like it's startup world. Startup world makes a lot of money. They get most of the funding in America. So they're doing something right. So you should also follow it. But always take time to read. I always say an hour a day is what I have scheduled on my calendar, blocked off to really surf certain platforms. Quora is one of my favorites because you can ask questions and never be afraid to ask questions. What a God. The people who don't ask questions kind of drive me nuts because when you wait to the last second, you don't have it. Quora is great for that. Facebook, not so much, but Quora is great. Go into Quora, ask a question, and you'll usually get it answered. There's some incredible people out there that want to answer your question because that's where they sit. So go pick your peers' brains.
Yeah, some good recommendations there. I also do mentoring with Veterati, so that's a great organization there.
Yep, Diana and Daniel are amazing. I love both of those guys to death. Just amazing. And Daniel being a Marine, come on, Diana's just a genius. I mean, they have a great product. Obviously, it's been duplicated by some gigantic brands. So they're doing something right when you're a little brand and you've got big brands copying what you're doing. So you're doing something right.
Yep. That's a fair point there. So as far as your value system or your work ethos, you might say, we're kind of in a unique time in history where, people are not as afraid to put their values and, their belief systems into their business. it's, before it was kind of like, you kind of